It was 1979. Disco was king. The music pulsed through every club, every radio station. People couldn't get enough. They wore sequins and platform shoes. Life was a giant dance floor. But something else was brewing. A storm of resentment. A backlash against the glitter and the glamour. This wasn't just about music. This was a cultural clash. Disco was everywhere. It dominated the airwaves. It even took over Hollywood. Movies like Saturday Night Fever became instant classics. People flocked to see John Travolta strut his stuff. The Bee Gees provided the soundtrack to a generation. It was a disco fever dream, but not everyone was invited to the party. The music had its roots in marginalized communities. Black, Latino, and LGBTQ plus folks embraced its message of freedom and acceptance. They found a home on the dance floor. But for some, this inclusivity was a threat. They saw disco as an outsider invading their territory. The music itself was different. It was all about rhythm and groove. Long, hypnotic songs kept the party going. This wasn't the 3-minute rock and roll they were used to. This was something new, something challenging, and some people just couldn't handle it. Disco didn't just appear out of thin air. It had deep roots. It grew from the underground, nurtured by communities who craved a space to be themselves. Black artists like Donna Summer and Gloria Gaynor became icons. They poured their hearts and souls into every track. The music pulsed with energy. It was impossible to stand still. The rhythm took over your body, forcing you to move. It was a celebration of life, of freedom, of being alive. In a world that often felt dark and uncertain, disco offered a glimmer of hope. For the LGBTQ plus community, disco was more than just music. It was a sanctuary, a place where they could be themselves, without judgment or fear. Clubs like Studio 54 became legendary. They were havens of acceptance, where everyone was welcome. Latin rhythms also found their way into the mix. Salsa and merengue blended seamlessly with disco beats. The dance floor became a melting pot of cultures, a celebration of diversity. It was a beautiful thing to witness. But the backlash was growing. Rock fans felt threatened. They saw disco as a commercialized, manufactured product. It lacked the authenticity and grit of their beloved rock and roll. Radio DJs fanned the flames of discontent. They demonized disco, calling it repetitive, soulless, and shallow. They claimed it was destroying real music. The media picked up on the story. The battle lines were drawn. It was disco versus rock, and only one could survive. The anti-disco sentiment tapped into deeper anxieties. America was changing. Traditional values were being challenged. The sexual revolution was in full swing. And for some, disco represented everything that was wrong with society. It was too free, too loose, too different. The attacks became increasingly personal. Disco was labeled as gay music, a thinly veiled attempt to discredit it. Racial tensions also bubbled beneath the surface. Some saw disco as a threat to white dominance in the music industry. Section 4. Demolition Night. The tension reached a boiling point on July 12, 1979 at Comiskey Park in Chicago. A radio DJ named Steve Dahl organized an event called Disco Demolition Night. It was supposed to be a lighthearted promotion, but it quickly spiraled out of control. Thousands of people, fueled by anger and beer, stormed the field. They hurled disco records like frisbees. A crate of records was blown up in center field. The crowd went wild. It was a scene of utter chaos. The event made national news. It became a symbol of the anti-disco backlash, but it also exposed the ugliness that lay beneath the surface. The racism, the homophobia, the fear of change. It was a dark day for music and for America. Section 5. Staying Alive. Disco Demolition Night is often seen as the death knell for disco. And it's true that the genre's commercial dominance faded, but disco didn't die. It simply evolved. It went underground, morphing into house music, techno, and electronic dance music. The spirit of disco lived on in these new genres. The driving beats, the soaring vocals, the emphasis on dancing. Disco's influence could be heard in the music of Madonna, Prince, and Michael Jackson. It never truly went away. Today, disco is experiencing a resurgence. People are rediscovering the joy of dancing to those infectious grooves. The music has found a new generation of fans who embrace its message of inclusivity and freedom. Disco reminds us that music has the power to bring people together. It transcends boundaries of race, gender, and sexual orientation. It's a celebration of life, of love, and of the freedom to dance. And that's something worth fighting for.